Am I wrong for rescheduling my friend's bachelorette party? My female 24, friend female 24, I've known about for 10 years is getting married in August. I am the maid of honor. We booked our hotel room in January. Party was planned for the end of May. I don't live in the same city as the bride, so her and the other girls in the bridal party are planning on driving to me, which is a 3-hour drive. I just found out that a trip me and my mom have been planning to Europe this spring for the last 3 years was already canceled once in 2020, has been canceled again due to low numbers in tour. Our travel agent had another tour we could choose that is for sure a go, but it would be interfering with the bachelorette. Travel agent said other tours later in the year are also not a guarantee and prices could change. I messaged the bridal party and apologized for needing to change the date, and I explained that this is a trip that is important for me and my mom, and we have limited options. The girls agreed to change the date to the end of April, and I spoke with the bride on the phone and all seemed well, and she said she understood and was optimistic everything would work out. The next day she messages me saying it's not going to work. We talk on the phone and she says the rest of the girls don't want to change the date as it is inconvenient for them and their schedules. As well, another friend was planning to fly in from another city. I had messaged her already to apologize. She had previously told me that flights were cheap and she also has family here or could visit the bride at the end of May if she couldn't change the flights. I told the bride that my mom told the travel agent to book this new tour and my mom is not changing it again. I asked why we couldn't pick another weekend when almost all of the girls have weekends off. I told her that if we don't change the date, then I will not be at the bachelorette. She said, I guess you won't be then. After, I messaged the bridal party group chat to explain to the girls I can't change this trip now and that there is a lot of money wrapped up in it. I said sorry again and just asking why they can't make another date work. I also gave the option that some could drive in on Saturday if not able to on Friday due to work. Another bridesmaid sent a huge message saying it was disrespectful that I expect 5 people to change their schedule for just me and that she knows I can easily change my trip to another date, and that I don't get to make calls on the driving schedule. I stated I was not trying to disrespect anyone and was just giving options so that things could work out. I told her she was out of line for calling me disrespectful. I also was speaking to the bride on her own chat, and I said I feel like she isn't backing me up on this, and I feel hurt she is willing to exclude me. She said she doesn't have the confidence that I'll be there for her on her wedding day and that this isn't all about me, it's supposed to be about her. So, am I the asshole? How do I handle this as a mother? False accusations tore our family apart. I have been in a mother's worst nightmare for the last year. A year ago, almost exactly, my daughter accused my current partner of sexual assault. They incurred an investigation and charges laid. Court proceedings are happening just very slowly. However, her father kept me completely in the dark as to what the situation was. My daughter doesn't live with me. She lives full-time with her father, and apparently this happened when she was visiting me for the summer. I have been pursuing court action to be able to talk to my daughter, but it's a slow process. My ex is fighting tooth and nail to keep me from contacting her, with his justification being that I'm still in a relationship with the person that allegedly assaulted her. But basically, through legal proceedings, we are finally able to get her side of the story, and it is absolutely untrue. I can't go into details, but the set of circumstances laid out in her statement absolutely never happened. My take on it is that she saw a video on TikTok or YouTube about someone else's experience, saw all the attention and support they were getting, and decided to make up a story. Direct quote, "My friend and I saw how sympathetic people were being and said, hey, let's get in on this." Unfortunately, her father saw whatever it was she was doing and immediately cut contact with me and went to the police. My ex has hated my current partner since the beginning, but I'm at a complete loss for what to do now. I'm the one that is going to have to testify that there is no way that situation happened, while she is surrounded by people that believe her absolutely. Even though I know for a fact that it never happened how she said, the idea of having to get up there and call her a liar is heartbreaking. I feel like it is something that neither of us will recover from. I'm coming to the point where I am soon going to have to actually talk to my daughter about it, and have no idea how I'm going to address the fact that she blatantly lied, and that it has completely destroyed our lives. My partner lost access to his own daughter since his charges prevent him any contact with anyone under 16. I haven't been able to talk to my daughter in a year. We've lost friends and family and are going to be out tens of thousands of dollars in legal fees before it's over. I love my daughter, but I'm also intensely angry at her for the horror and trauma we have gone through. I recognize that she might not understand the consequences of her decision and that her father would have been inclined to pursue this even if she tried to tell him it wasn't true. But I just can't disregard all the damage she has caused. And for the record, no, I'm not trying to cover for my partner. If I had any doubt about it actually being true, I would be in a very different place. I wouldn't be willing to testify if I thought there was any possible way it could be true. Oh my god, this made me sad. Am I wrong for not accepting my sister's relationship with my ex despite her having cancer as a teenager? My 25 female father married my stepsister's 23 female's mom when I was 4 and she was 3. We've lived together for most of our lives and are a family. She and I were extremely close. She developed cancer when she was 14 and was sick for about 2 years. During that time, my parents became understandably overprotective. They also asked a lot of me. I quit my extracurriculars so that I could get a job, the money went towards her medical bills, and so I could drive her to appointments. I didn't go to dances, and any fun activities I did needed to include her. I did almost all of this willingly, the exception being having to quit my high school volleyball team. I did throw a bit of a tantrum about that, but was swiftly punished. And I think having one emotional breakdown was pretty chill given the circumstances. Anyhow, I go to college and meet my ex, we'll call him Ben, when I was a junior. We fall in love, blah blah blah. He and I move in together when we graduate, so we've been living together for about 3 years. We were serious until July when I walked into my bedroom and saw him sleeping with my sister. I broke it off, tears were shed, he moved out, etc. My sister apologized at first, but then backed off. I thought she was going to give me space, but last week she called and asked if we could meet up. She told me that she and Ben were in love and were just telling me as a courtesy before they started posting photos online. You gave up your fucking volleyball career for her? Distraught, I left her in the restaurant by herself and did not pay my portion of the bill. She later Venmoed me asking me for the money. You can steal my man, the least you can do is pay for my food. Like common courtesy. She then told my parents, who called me to their house, telling me how disappointed they are in me for not supporting my sister's relationship with Ben. They brought up the fact that because she had cancer as a teenager, she never learned proper social etiquette and has a hard time meeting people. Oh my god, no! I don't buy this, in part because I've seen her socialize just fine, and since we spent a good chunk of the time she was sick together. That would mean that I should have had bad social skills as well by that logic. They then told me that if I don't accept my sister and Ben's relationship, they may have to go no contact with me. I reminded them that I'm also their daughter and they should understand my point of view, but they are adamant that this is about me being jealous of her. For the record, I am not jealous of her. I'm not upset that Ben picked her over me. I'm sad about the end of the relationship and do feel betrayed. But Lord knows that I don't want to be with a cheater. What I'm sad about is the fact that my sister chose Ben over me. That she slept with Ben knowing he and I were in a long-term committed relationship and continues to be with him knowing how much it hurts me. Now, no one in my immediate family is talking to me and I'm getting messages from my aunts, uncles, and cousins telling me that I'm an asshole and a selfish bitch. So, am I an asshole? Am I wrong for asking my boyfriend to charge his family member for fraud? Backstory. I, 27 female, and my boyfriend, 34 male, have been together for 5 years and have worked really hard to save for a house. The house won't be built until the end of 2022. Last week, we received some shocking news when my boyfriend's credit score came back as being bad. There was activity on the statement that was 100% not his and a credit card that has gone into default over the last 6 months. This credit card was originally my boyfriend's, but he swears he closed the account and canceled the card in mid-2019. Long story short, we discovered that a family member that was living with him a few years ago had gotten a hold of the card at some point and has been using the card on and off since 2019. They defaulted on payments in early 2020 but paid this off, then defaulted again in December of last year, and the account is still in default with over $5,000 in owed charges and late fees. The family member had diverted these to their address. My boyfriend had zero knowledge of this as he hasn't had access to the account after he closed it and hasn't been receiving statements or notices from the bank. We are now unable to successfully apply for a bank loan for our house as they won't lend to my boyfriend with his credit the way it is. Our options are to 1. Proceed with fraud investigations and charges in the family member allowing us to prove this is no fault of my boyfriend's and successfully secure the loan. 2. Boyfriend pays the debt and we wait at least 2 years from the payoff date for his credit to regain some loss. Option 2 sets us back at least 3 years in starting a family and our lives as homeowners. This will also not allow my boyfriend to secure a bank loan to start up his own business he's been dreaming of starting for a few years. This has devastated us and put a massive delay in our plans. My boyfriend doesn't like conflict and is going with option 2. He isn't even planning on mentioning anything to the family member. He wants it all to go away and thinks this family member is going through a rough time. I want my boyfriend to proceed with fraud charges and investigation. We have worked too hard to not have our dream house and him owning his own business. So, am I the asshole for pushing my opinion on my boyfriend? He said you're both working hard. Why can't you use your credit? If you're saying you guys both work hard, you have all this money, you're 27. You don't got the credit to get a house. I don't think you get it really choice. You don't get to push it. It's not your credit. He said no. Khalas, done. Sucks. I know people are getting mad at me for this, but that's how I feel. My 29 female, husband 32 male of 3 years said something I can't move on from. We have a job that requires us to wake up very early in the morning. That's how we met. He usually wakes up before me and makes me breakfast. He's been doing this since we got married. He's sweet and caring like that. He's also the funniest, genuine, and friendliest person I know. I love him and know that he loves me back. Our relationship has always been stable. Now, I'm not so sure. This morning while we were having breakfast, he calmly asked me to kill him if I ever caught him cheating. I initially brushed it off as a joke and replied, likewise. Then he said that he'd kill me if he found me cheating and he would enjoy it. I didn't know how to react. I just got chills. He's never been like this and I can't imagine him saying things like this. All day at work, I've been thinking, what did I do wrong? Did he read my messages and find something off? Did he see me talking with someone inappropriately? I don't know. What should I say to him? You don't. You listen to your gut and you run away. My 28 female best friend cheated, and I know. My best friend cheated on her spouse with an old fling that has used and abused her from day one. She was never able to fully let him go, despite being in her current relationship for 3 years. A few months ago, she went over to his house, told her husband she was going to a friend's, and they ended up sleeping together. He, of course, ghosted him immediately, as it is his MO. She was deeply hurt, but now is feeling great. She feels she got the closure she needed from this guy and is moving on with her life, planning her wedding. COVID ruined their plans last year, and they had a very small event just to make things legal, in which I am her maid of honor. Here's the thing though, the guilt is eating me alive. My husband and I are very close with her and hers, and every time I see her husband, I feel terrible for knowing something like this and not telling him. My best friend absolutely refuses to tell him, as she knows this is his deal breaker and will leave her. Plus, will expose all the lies she told him about this particular person over the years. I know it's not my place to tell him, and she genuinely seems happier, and the relationship is going better now that she's gotten her closure, but I don't know how to swallow the guilt and stand by her and her husband as a maid of honor knowing what I know.
Story time on how my boyfriend got my mom pregnant. Okay, so boom, let's jump right into it. My disgusting boyfriend and backstabbing mom were unusually close. They would talk and text on the phone all the time. But of course, I didn't think my mother would hook up with my boyfriend. To make a long story short, when my boyfriend would come over and hang out, there's times where I would go to ballet class. And my boyfriend and mom would be home alone. I would be in ballet class and my dad would be at work. And I bet you think I found out. Nope. My mom was pregnant and I was thinking my dad was obviously the father. And of course, at first, my dad thought so too. Oh, but no. Once my sister came, my dad was suspicious of my mom, so he did a paternity test. The results came back and guess what? It wasn't his. Oh, but it gets worse. My dad walked in on my boyfriend and my mom. Like for part 2. Part 2 on how my boyfriend got my mom pregnant. Okay, so boom, like I said, my dad didn't think my new sister was his, so he took a paternity test. He was right, it was not his. But what takes the cake, even though my mom wasn't supposed to be doing the do, when my dad pulled up with the paternity test early, he walked in and seen my boyfriend and my mom in bed. My dad was more so disgusted than even shocked. My dad told me, I was shocked, I cried, but then me and my dad moved out together and now I have a new amazing stepmom. I don't talk to my sister and my boyfriend eventually left my mom, so now she just looks stupid and alone. And my boyfriend is a bum, so he has literally nothing going on for himself. My dad and I don't talk to my mom, but I kind of feel bad for my sister. It's not her fault, but I don't want a relationship with her. Am I wrong? Story time on how I slept with my 78-year-old grandpa so I can be in his will. Okay, so boom. Let's jump right into it. Going straight to the point here, my grandpa is rich. My parents, on the other hand, are broke. Now, I may be 17 years old, but I have a huge heart. My grandpa is sick and has cancer. He's so lonely, and since I have such a big heart, I decided I wanted to help. My grandpa was in a process of writing his will, and I wanted to make sure my spot was secure. And I wanted to make sure my grandpa was good too. Well, one day I visited my grandpa at the hospital when no one else in my family was there. It was 7 p.m. and I set the mood by closing the curtains. I then looked at my grandpa and I kissed him. He seemed shocked, but I can tell he liked it with that smile. And I caressed his bald head and went on top of him. Part 2 on how I slept with my 78-year-old grandpa so I can be in his will. Okay, so boom, like I said, I caressed my grandpa's bald head and got on top of him. And once I got on top, the rest was history. Best minute of my life. I did a good deed and I left with majority of my grandpa's money in the will. My family is jealous, but they didn't have a big heart like I did. I cared about my grandpa going through cancer. What can I say? My mom tried to have a threesome with me in a chicken coop story time. Okay, so boom, we're gonna go right into this one. So I live with my mom and visit my dad on the weekends. They've been divorced for years, so it's normal. What's not normal is that my mom has a new boyfriend. She seems happy, but I can't help to think she's a little bit desperate for him. She pays for everything. He moved out of his mom's house and into ours, and he's always using her car because he doesn't have one. She just does anything to make him happy, and it's just not it. But my mom took it a step too far when to please him, she involved me. We have a farm, and one day I went to go feed the chickens in the chicken coop. I walked into the chicken coop and ding, 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 you got it. My mom was on the floor with her boyfriend, on top of him, naked. I turned away in shock, about to walk away, and then her boyfriend stops me and says, like for part 2, my mom tried to have a threesome with me in a chicken coop, story time part 2. Okay, so boom, like I said, my mom was just desperate and she would literally do anything for this man. I walked into the chicken coop to feed the chickens and my mom was there on top of her boyfriend naked. I tried to walk away, but her boyfriend stopped me. He said, wait, hold on, this is perfect. Come join us. I looked at my mom thinking this was a joke, but she just said, come here, honey. He's been talking about you. He likes the both of us. They're in their 40s and I'm 14. And I just stood there in shock because my mom was really trying to convince me to come sleep with her and her boyfriend. I, of course, did not participate. I told my dad, currently staying with him, and my mom and real dad got into an argument and now are facing legal battles. And I'm just here still shocked that my mom asked me for a threesome in a chicken coop. My dad tried to be in a polyamorous relationship with me and my little sister. Story time. Okay, so boom, let's jump right into it. So my dad was always a little weird with me and my little sister. He loved us, but it wasn't that fatherly love. He made subtle moves to me and my little sister, but as time went on, he started getting bold. One day, my mom was in the hospital. I don't really remember what for, maybe giving birth, I don't know. But while she was out, my dad came to me and my little sister's room and he wanted to tell us something. Obviously, that something was forcing me and my sister to secretly get into a polyamory relationship with our dad, where he would do inappropriate things to the both of us. And of course, me and my sister wanted no parts. But he wasn't asking, he was telling. He then tried to force me and my sister to, do things. And I'm not down for that, obviously, so he attacked us. Like and follow for part 2. My dad tried to be in a polyamorous relationship with me and my little sister. Story time part 2. Okay, so boom, like I said, he tried to force me and my little sister to, do things, and we weren't down for that, obviously, so he attacked us. As he's attacking us, my mom came back home, maybe after giving birth, I don't know, but she came home, saw what my dad was trying to do to us, and immediately stopped him, just in time. My mom called the cops on my dad, and he tried to escape and run away. But he should have ran faster because the cops definitely found him and took him in. That disgusting man is now behind bars, and that's where he needs to Storytime on how I beat up a 4-year-old in pre-K. Okay, so boom. I know this sounds crazy, but you let me know if I'm in the wrong here. So I work in a daycare in Florida. It's very prestige and parents pay a lot of money to put their kids in this daycare. As a teacher, I'm obviously not allowed to hit kids because that's inappropriate, but sometimes kids can really get you out of character. So this 4-year-old boy was gifted, which means he was super smart. Also about to skip pre-K because he was that smart. But him being smart also came with him being very aggressive. Like if he raised his hand to answer a question but you don't call on him, he would get mad and yell at me. Or if a student didn't know an answer to a question, he would call that student stupid then give the correct answer. He was aggressive and his parents did nothing to stop him. Well, one day this 4-year-old boy took it too far. We were at the playground and for some reason he was mad at one of the girls in his class. I see him bullying her and I told him to stop. And he did. I turned around to tend to another student and boom. Part 2 on how I beat up a 4-year-old in pre-K. Okay, so boom, like I said, the little boy that was gifted was mad at one of the girls in his class. I seen him bullying her and told him to stop, and he did. I turned around to tend to another student, and boom. When I turned back around, I see him push her to the floor, and she starts crying. I ran over to her, and this little girl was on the floor bleeding. She was pushed onto the concrete floor, and her bone on her knees was exposed. She was a very little fragile, skinny girl, and 4 years old, so that push was real real bad. She was bleeding. I ran for help, called an ambulance, and they came and took her. I then took him to my classroom, y'all, and I beat his ass. I mean, I can't even lie to y'all. I really beat that boy up. He was crying in shock because I'm sure he was never disciplined, and I got fired. The girl did make a full recovery, but she had a very long recovery time. Now I can't work with kids anymore, but I don't feel like I did